The movie begins and we see that in 10,191, humans travel through space using spice, found only on Arrakis. The locals, Fremen, suffer under imperial rule as nobles vie for spice control. Harkonnens ruled Arrakis until Atreides took over, but Harkonnens return, massacring Atreides. Paul and Jessica escape, meeting Fremen who view Paul as a prophesied savior. Fremen guide them, unseen, while Harkonnens Vladimir rewards Beast Robin to control spice. In desert, Paul's group tricks Harkonnen soldiers with a thumper, summoning giant worms. The Harkonnens hear the noise and head to a nearby rock formation. During an eclipse, Fremen shoot at them from afar with laser guns. Paul steals a knife and kills a soldier in combat. Jessica kills another with a rock. Fremen collect water from the dead. Jessica, secretly pregnant, vomits. Fremen summon a giant worm to devour the bodies. Robin moves troops due to losses. Paul's group reaches Fremen town. Some doubt Paul, others believe the prophecy. Stilgar backs Paul as the chosen one, but council is skeptical. Paul eats spiced food, triggering a mysterious vision. Jessica witnesses Fremen rituals where Paul's victim's water joins a cave lake for planet transformation. Dying Reverend Mother wants Jessica to replace her. Touched by the mother, Jessica drinks water of life, inducing a seizure as her unborn changes. Eyes blue, she is pregnant, deemed a ritual error. After her death, Fremen debate, miracle or lie? Prophecy divides them on Jessica as outsider savior. Paul clarifies Jessica's survival was not miraculous but due to her training. He rejects leadership, earning Stilgar's conviction as chosen. Jessica awakes, claiming the baby communicates. She urges Paul to drink the water of life. Paul learns Fremen ways in the desert with Cheney, growing close. In town, Jessica plans to sway doubters. Fremen ambush a spice harvester, using sand for advantage. Aircraft attacks, Paul and Cheney neutralize it. Fremen destroy Harvester, celebrating Paul as one of their own with a new name, embracing him warmly. The next day, Paul watches Stilgar ride a worm and takes off his family ring, accepting that he is not an Atreides anymore. Cheney joins him, and they share a kiss. For the next few months, the group keeps traveling together through the desert and destroying any harvester they find, slowly causing great losses to House Harkonnen. When Vladimir hears about all this trouble, he kills 2 assistants in anger. He calls Robin to his chambers and tells him that if they keep failing, the Emperor will take spice out of their control. Robin must fix things or he will be punished. Back to Paul, he wakes up from another nightmare. He tries to share it with Cheney but does not remember much. He sees himself following a woman into war while hundreds of people die around them. Cheney tells him that weird dreams are just a consequence of being exposed to spice for so long. Paul undergoes the Fremen rite of passage by calling and riding a sandworm, initially struggling but eventually succeeding. Fremen respect him, cheering and bowing as prophecy fulfills. Jessica spreads news and heads south for followers. Paul realizes she is his dream woman as they part ways. Sometime later, the Fremen attack a spice depot, destroying 80% of the enemy's harvest. Furious, Robin gathers his troops and flies to the desert to find the Fremen. They cannot see them anywhere, but Robin makes his men shoot at the rocky formation anyway, causing a huge explosion and thick dust fog. Then Robin and his soldiers leave their ships and start walking through the fog, giving the Fremen the chance to surround them and kill them one by one. Terrified, Robin and his men try to escape, but the Fremen start shooting at the aircraft too. Robin barely manages to hold on and almost gets killed, but a guard shoots the attacker off the ship, and they escape. Meanwhile, the Emperor is worried about the Fremen gaining power, and his daughter, Princess Irulan, advises him to let the conflict turn into a full war. Later, in private, Irulan tells Reverend Mother Helen that she thinks the Fremen's new prophet is Paul. Helen confirms it but tells her not to tell anyone, especially the Emperor, because if the great houses find out about the massacre of the Atreides family, her father could lose the throne. She is also planning for the Emperor's nephew, Feyd Rotha, to take over Arrakis. Speaking of Feyd, he is getting ready for a fight and tests his new blade on a servant, quickly killing her but still complaining about the sharpness. At the same time, his opponents receive a mysterious injection, revealing they are 3 prisoners from the Atreides family. Then Feyd enters the arena, where Vladimir and thousands of people have come to watch his battle on his birthday. He kills 2 of his 3 opponents in just a few seconds, but the third one was not given the poison and offers a fair fight. Feyd realizes he is being tested, so he takes off his body shield to show off and continues to fight the prisoner, telling the guards not to help him. His opponent tries his best, but Feyd is still a better warrior and kills him as well, gaining applause from the crowd. Later that day, Feyd complains to Vladimir about the trick, but Vladimir tells him he passed the test and can have Arrakis. Vladimir also explains he plans to bring down the Emperor and wants Feyd to take over. On his way out, Feyd notices he is being followed by Margot, a member of the Bene Gesserit. Feyd realizes he has seen her in his dreams and Margot manipulates him into following her to her room, where they sleep together. The next day, Margot informs Helen and Irulan that the bloodline has been secured because she is pregnant with Feyd's child, just as planned. At the same time, Vladimir declares Feyd the new governor of Arrakis. In the desert, a band of smugglers lands a harvester to gather some spice, but the Fremen immediately activate hidden mines and open fire to destroy all their equipment. Paul jumps on one of the smugglers, but stops his attack when he notices it is Gurney, the war master who used to work for his family. Paul tells the others not to attack anymore and reunites with his old friend with a hug. Afterward, Gurney and his men start traveling with Paul's group. Gurney tells Paul that he should use his power to control the Fremen and get revenge, but Paul is scared of doing so because his visions lead to a holy war with millions of deaths. Sometime later, Gurney reveals he knows where the Atreides family hid all their firepower. Paul starts seeing things differently because all that power could help him get freedom for the Fremen. They tell the others and travel to the hidden cave, where only Paul's DNA can open the door. Inside, they find 92 atomic warheads. Meanwhile, Jessica arrives in the south and continues to spread the word about Paul's achievements. She also meets with the Maker Keeper, who shows her how the water of life is made. Inside a temple, the Keeper summons a baby sandworm, drowns it in a small lake, and extracts its poison. When the poison is ready, Jessica uses her power to force the Keeper to share the water with Paul when he comes, which is forbidden. Sometime later, Paul finds Chani staring at the sun and discovers her face is burned. Suddenly, he wakes up and finds all the Fremen looking around because they can hear explosions. It turns out Feyd is attacking their town, destroying it with heavy artillery from aircraft. When Robin arrives, he confronts his brother Feyd for taking his place, but Feyd quickly knocks him down and forces him to kiss his feet. Then Feyd meets with a friend of Chani's who was captured during the attack, but since she refuses to share any information, she gets killed. Back to Paul's group, they rush back to their town to help the few people who survived the attack. They receive a message from the south saying the leaders are gathering to discuss the situation, but Paul refuses to go because he is afraid of his visions. When he touches the sand, he has the same terrible visions again, but Chani convinces him they have no choice if they want to survive. The entire group rides a bunch of sandworms and finally makes their way to the south. Paul enters the temple, and the Keeper gives him the water of life, which he drinks without hesitation. He has a vision of his future sister standing on a beach and telling him the truth about their family. By the time the rest of the group arrives at the temple, Paul's vital signs are so low that he looks dead. Chani is furious and tells Jessica to fix it, but Jessica uses her power on Chani to force her to finish the ritual. Chani combines her tear with a small amount of the water of life, then she drops that liquid on Paul's lips to wake him up. Everyone bows because they consider this a miracle, but Chani slaps Paul and then leaves angrily. Later, in private, Paul explains to Jessica that he can see all the futures and understand the past. He's also seen his entire bloodline and learned that Jessica is Vladimir's daughter. Jessica claims she did not know either until she drank the water. Paul announces that if they are Harkonnens, then they shall fight as them, marking the beginning of Paul's descent from savior to tyrant. Paul then goes to the war council, where all the Fremen are praying. Chani tries to tell them they are being manipulated by the prophecy and that this will end badly, but nobody believes her. As Paul walks to the middle of the room, the locals discuss whether Stilgar should die so Paul can take his place as a leader. Paul yells at them for wanting to get rid of a great warrior. Then he gives a powerful speech, talking about himself as a prophet and surprising everyone by mentioning things from a random person's past that he only knows thanks to the water. Everyone is impressed and falls to their knees again, accepting Paul as their leader for good. Paul then puts on his father's ring, calls himself the Duke of Arrakis, and promises to turn the planet into a green paradise for the Fremen. Everyone except Chani chants his name, ready to fight for him. Moments later, the Emperor receives a message from Paul challenging him for the throne. In private, Helen tells Irulan that her father will lose the throne no matter who wins, but their family can stay in power if Irulan marries the victor. Sometime later, the Emperor's army arrives at Arrakis. Paul makes a plan with the Fremen and reminds them to capture the Emperor alive. Vladimir sees the arrival too and tells Feyd to warn all the great houses. Soon, the Emperor meets with Vladimir and his nephews to demand information, but since Vladimir knows nothing about what is happening in the south, the Emperor makes a guard punish him. At that moment, the Fremen open fire, destroying the enemy's shields with atomic warheads and causing sand to blow everywhere, providing cover. They also set up a bunch of thumpers to summon an army of worms, which they ride into battle, killing hundreds of soldiers at once. Many Fremen come out of the sand as well, attacking from behind structures so the enemy is surrounded on all sides. Soldiers struggle in the desert, overwhelmed by Fremen tactics. Paul infiltrates, unnoticed, until he confronts and kills Vladimir, calling him grandfather. He orders feeding Vladimir to the desert and capturing others. Fremen dominate, Gurney avenges the Duke by killing Robin. Battle ends, bodies burn, Vladimir's body discarded in the sand. Paul warns the great houses of warheads over spice fields unless they accept his leadership. He proposes marriage to Irulan for joint rule but demands justice from the Emperor. The Emperor refuses, Feyd fights for him, but Paul outsmarts and kills Feyd. Fremen acclaim Paul, Irulan accepts marriage. Paul forces the Emperor to submit, securing his throne. Chani, hurt, leaves as Paul prepares Fremen for a new life. She departs on a worm into the desert alone and the story ends here. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like the story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more film recaps.